When you talk about major sports stars and their relationship with the media over the last 3 decades, Keyshawn Johnson has been one of the most fascinating athletes turned TV personalities. He was an All-American at USC in LA, the number one pick of the Jets in New York, a Super Bowl champion with the Buccaneers in Tampa. He was also a Dallas Cowboy. After he retired from playing, he first was with ESPN and is now with Fox Sports. With all this to talk about, we wanted to have Keyshawn Johnson on the main event, and here he is. Keyshawn, thanks for joining us.
No problem, Andrew. It's going to be fun. I can tell already. It's going to be a good little ride.
Well, the thing I always respect about you, dating back to your playing days and then at ESPN, I mean, people don't realize when before you left ESPN, your schedule was crazy, crazy, crazy. In
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
you're doing the morning show, you're doing NFL. Like, what was? Give me a little taste of that. We're gonna get into a lot of things, but what was that like in terms of your hours? Because I don't know when you slept.
When I first started ESPN, it was pretty simple and easy. I did 10 years on NFL Monday and Sunday Night Countdown, and it was only on the weekend I would travel, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, return back home Tuesday morning, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, return back home Tuesday morning. Then, things started to shift around at ESPN, and then eventually I moved to local radio in Los Angeles, along with some other assignments on the East Coast, which was NFL Live, along with Thursday Night Sports Center from here in LA. So I would just be crazy. Then, right around the pandemic, right when the pandemic took off in 2020, Dave Roberts and Norby reached out to me about coming in and doing the national radio show. So that time frame shifted me to the point where I was waking up, I want to say about 2 a.m. West Coast time, which was about 5 a.m. East Coast time. If I'm correct, it might have been 1:30 in the morning, but it was really really late. And then eventually I moved to New York in the summer of 20, and I would go from morning radio at the Seaport to Bristol, Connecticut for NFL Live. I think those days were Wednesday and Thursday, but I would travel back and forward Wednesday and Thursday, and then I would do radio all over again. And then sometimes I would have to get on the road to do sit down interviews because a team or a player wouldn't want to interview with anybody at ESPN except for me. So it was like my schedule was just all over the place. And then eventually I moved back to Los Angeles in around 2021, but I would do 2 weeks in New York, 2 weeks in LA. So the time changes, Andrew, was driving me crazy. And I still had pretty much that same schedule. If I was on the East Coast, it was one way. If I was on the West Coast, it was another.
So we're going to get all into a lot of other sports media with Keyshawn, especially as a player, what that was like in New York and LA. We're going to get that in a second. To listen to the whole podcast, andrewmarchand.com. We're sponsored by WSC Sports. We got our event May 6th with NBC Sports President Rick Cordell off the record with Andrew Marchand, presented by WSC Sports. You can sign up in the show notes. Asset management capabilities have been added to the WSC platform out of the box for no extra cost. For all clients, old and new, no longer do you need to juggle or pay for multiple tools to complete your content workflows. It all happens in one place. Go to WSC Sports in the show notes, click the link, yellow demo, and tell them Marchand sent you. All right, let's go back to when Keyshawn Johnson, when were you first written about or talked about as, I would think, teenage years, hot prospect, end up at USC? When do you remember when you first were introduced to the media and what that was like for you?
When I was first introduced to the media was in 1981. That just dates me back, 1981, 82.
Wait, how old are you then?
At that point in time, I was about 8 years old, I think I was. Maybe, yeah, about 8, 9 years old, if I can remember correctly. But where I grew up at is across the street from USC. And our USC's practice facilities were open to the public. Like any and everybody, John Robinson would allow any and everybody to come and watch practice. That was just the way USC has always been. A lot of places, closed doors, no one can come in. Secrets are going to be told. That wasn't the case. So as a kid, I was interviewed. My first time in an interview was interviewed by the legendary Los Angeles television personality in Fred Rogan. Fred Rogan interviewed me to be as it's pretty fascinating as the timeline went on to be the next Marcus Allen at USC as a little bitty kid. It was crazy. It was crazy. And that was the first time I would say I was introduced to the media. Larger scale, high school, right? Or I went to a pretty dominating high school in Los Angeles called Dorsey High. And many athletes have come there, coaches and players and politicians and whatnot. And that was the real, true first test of the media. Then obviously once I went to USC, then from there, Tim Tessalone, the sports information director, just you know, I don't know, he just took a liking to me over the years and just taught me all about the media. I used to work in the sports information department in the office, so I kind of was around Nancy Masmanian along with Tim Tessalone and John Tapanaka, and those individuals kind of helped me understand what media was all about.
So much there that I want to talk to you. If you want to listen to the whole podcast, andrewmarchand.com, andrewmarchand.com for the whole podcast. Now, that 8-9-year-old Keyshawn Johnson tape, do you have it? Is that